Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode.
Hi, Marsha.
Hi, Kelly.
We're together.
Yeah, we're sitting right next to each other.
Yes. No phone ringing before the podcast started. We've been together since Wednesday.
Oh, we didn't even talk about whether we were going to talk about this or not, but we should just say something about staying at your house in Salinas.
Okay, let's do it.
Because if you've been following Kelly on Instagram, Kelly and her husband Robert have put a sauna in the backyard.
Yes.
And so Wednesday night and Thursday night, we used the sauna.
That was great.
And I think we might have to put some of the audio from the experience of the sauna, because it's the sauna's done, but Robert's building a shower, an outdoor shower, but that's not done yet. So to cool off in between stays in the sauna as you just get hosed down with the garden hose by Robert. And so I think at the end of the podcast we'll put the audio.
Yes, we'll warn you, because you might, if you were wearing earbuds, you might not want to listen to that part.
Anyway, but yeah, the sauna really is fantastic. It's really fun. So we had a nice time I was hanging out Wednesday. Well, I arrived Wednesday, hung out Thursday at the house, and that was nice. Yeah. So anyway, and then
now we're at Stitches.
Yes, we're at Stitches. So we're in Santa Clara.
Yes. And
we had, I don't know how many hours have you been wandering around on the
lots of hours.
Lots of hours wandering around.
Yeah, we've been in the marketplace. There's a lot to see. There's over 1,000 booth spaces. Now, some of the vendors take up more than one booth, but it's a lot of vendors. Yeah. A lot of vendors.
So we'll talk about Stitches, but first we'll talk about what we finished.
Yes, because I had to finish a palooza. I finished my poncho in time to wear it to Stitches, because that was the goal. So I finished it, and I have to say it has been a big hit.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It really is beautiful.
I'm really proud of it. I think it turned out really
and it's so much fun because you can wear it in so many different ways. Mine, there's really only one way you can wear it.
Right.
Right side out and inside out. That's it. 2 ways.
Yeah, well, inside out wouldn't be very good on yours.
No, but yours is so much fun because of it's just a rectangle, but it has buttons on 2 sides, right?
Yeah, it has buttons on the short end of the rectangle, like the short side of the rectangle, and then they turn the corner and go a little ways down the long side of the rectangle. So you can put the 2 short ends together and wear it kind of more like a cape, or you can put the short end to the long end and button it and wear it, which is more like a poncho, which is what I did yesterday. Yeah. And then there are other things you can do with it too, where you button some of them and not others, and flip it over and make a collar, or wrap it around your neck twice like a big shawl, like a scarf. And I haven't worn it in those ways, but yeah, I love it. I love it. I love the buttons that are on it. I highly recommend the Neighborhood Fiber Company yarn. In fact, I went to their booth to show it off and have them see it. And one of the women in the booth had already seen it on my project page. She's like, "Oh yeah, I saw your shawl. I've been wanting to make one for a shop sample and for myself." And so anyway, she was happy to see it. So that was good.
So, but it's the Om Shawl.
It's the Om Shawl by Andrea Mowry. I used 3 skeins of Neighborhood Fiber Company yarn, 3 different gray colors. So because I had 3 colors, I had to make several modifications. One of the modifications that I made was just to change the color work from a 4-color chevron to a 3-color chevron. And then also, because I had equal amounts of all 3 colors, I I didn't really have a main color and a contrast color. I just used all 3 colors throughout the back of the shawl. So, and the fabric that I got with the size 10 needles that were called for was too open, and so I went down a couple of needle sizes to get a better fabric, and that meant I had to cast on a little bit more than what it called for to get the same size, and that's fouled me up a little bit when I had to make the buttonholes. I had to then rethink the placement. I couldn't just follow the directions for how to put in the buttonholes because I had not the same number of stitches as the pattern. But anyway, I'm happy it's done because it seemed like it took a long time, mostly because I spent a lot of time thinking about how to make a 4-color shawl out of 3 colors. And it was pretty fun knitting. You do a different thing in every section, and so it never got boring. So that was nice. So yeah, I'm finished with it.
And I really like the fact that it is just the different shades of gray instead of because I think the pattern has more contrast between the colors, the original pattern, which is very nice. But I think the 3 shades of gray is really very striking. It's really good looking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and one
your
thing,
suitcase when you leave.
Make sure I have it. One thing that I think about the lack of contrast that was a little bit tricky was in the color work. There were quite a few rows where I had to go back where instead of going, two of one color, 2 of the next color, 2 of one color, 2 of the next color, I accidentally went, just 1 or 3 and got off. And I couldn't see it because the 2 colors were so close. The light gray and the medium gray were so close in value that it was difficult to tell whether I just had a dark section of the light yarn or a light section of the dark yarn. So I really had to count carefully in that colorwork section, which, as you know, if you've been listening for a while, counting is not my strong suit. So, but I'm pleased to be finished with it. And Marsha's is nice too.
Yeah, so the last episode I had finished, I'd bound off my poncho, and my poncho is Rodeo Drive poncho by Stacy Perry, and I used Barocco Ultra. I've been. It's so funny. We're laughing because before we started recording, I was practicing saying that, and
Barocco Ultra Alpaca.
Thank you very much. Anyway, I had bound off in the last episode, and I was getting ready to block it. So I blocked it. It grew significantly, so it's quite long, but I like it. So when I'm standing there, it comes down to my wrists on my arms, and then it goes down. How would you say the points in the front and the back, mid thigh?
Yeah,
a little below,
a little lower, not quite to your knees.
Yeah. But I like it. I think it's very flattering.
Yeah, it is.
And I wasn't sure how I was going to like a poncho, and I think it really, when you throw that poncho on, and it's kind of sophisticated looking. I think it's not
that one in particular.
Yeah, it's a good looking. I really like it, and it's warm, but it's not really hot either. I wore it yesterday. We wore our ponchos yesterday, and I wore it all day in the marketplace, and I was fine. And it was only when we went out and sat with the group out in the lobby that at one point I got kind of warm. But it's very comfortable. I really like it. It blocked out really well. So
yeah, it's very pretty. And Marsha was being petted all day
yesterday. Yes, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting, the show, where you go, people, strangers come up and touch you. Yeah, but it's okay. And then we go up and touch people,
yeah,
too.
That is the beauty of, we'll talk more about the highlights of Stitches, but I think one of the highlights of Stitches for me is that there's all these people who are wearing knitwear and are interested in what you're wearing and want to touch it, want to feel it, want to ask questions. There was a point yesterday where I was standing talking at one table, and I had already talked to the people behind me about my shawl, but I was standing there. I had turned back around to talk to the people at the table, and all of a sudden I can feel behind me my shawl being like lifted up and touched, and
yeah, a lot of touching going on.
It's the only but it's wonderful. It's really wonderful that everybody, it's like everyone. You don't really necessarily have to know anyone here. You could come and you could feel like you knew everyone here.
Yeah, so that's true.
But yeah, ponchos are done.
So I was going to say we were going to talk about all of our project updates, but since we're on projects, do you want to
do the poncho winner?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah.
So we actually got the opportunity to take a picture with quite a few poncho wearers yesterday. We had, I'll just run through some of the ponchos that we saw. So Tracy had done the Indigo Frost poncho, and that one if I thought I could wear a wool turtleneck, I would do it.
Yeah,
it's so pretty.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
And then Barb had Nitty Barb had her poncho on. Hers was pretty, really bright and lacy.
Very lacy, yeah.
It was nice. And then Marcy had on a poncho that was open in the front and had a collar, which I thought was nice. I don't know the pattern of that one.
And it kind of had, I wouldn't say sleeves, but it had openings for your arms.
For your arms, yeah. It was a nice design. And then Marianne was there, and she had on, she wasn't in the picture, but she had on I think it was the Viajante or Viajante, it's a long, drapey poncho. And Julie was there, Jay Chant, and she had on a poncho, not the one that she finished for this knit-along, but she did, in the spirit of ponchos, she wore her poncho to the meetup, so that was really nice. So they were all different. Everything from Tracy's really woolly turtleneck to Barb's really lacy poncho, and one with kind of a sleeve opening, and they were nice. They were really nice. And then we saw lots of other ponchos around.
Yeah.
Quite a few people. In fact, we were joking that every time we saw a poncho, we had to take a drink. And we decided that wasn't going to work because we'd be under the table before breakfast.
Yes. But I think that was this is the first time I've been to Stitches, so I don't know if ponchos are so popular, but there were a lot of ponchos at the show. A lot of patterns for ponchos, but lots of people wearing ponchos.
Yeah.
All different kinds of open, lacy ponchos, long, almost to the ankle ponchos.
Yeah. Short
little ponchos to just kind of go over the shoulders.
Like little capelets.
Yeah. Some people call it a swancho. Yeah. So, yeah, ponchos. Anyway, but the winner of our...
So, we did a selection, and the winner of the Great Poncho Adventure is going to get a pattern of her choice, up to $10 value. And so we did our selection. We had 12 ponchos finished, and then quite a few people who had started but haven't finished yet. So 12 finished ponchos in the thread, and the winner is number 9. That's Holiday Terry, and she made the Mingia poncho, I think is the way you say it. I'm saying it as a question. I actually wrote it down. I don't have to ask myself. It's the Mingia poncho, and it's made out of a blue Cascade Eco Plus. And she was actually the first person to start the poncho the poncho adventure when we started it. She's the first post, and I think this is really funny. I was looking back at her post in the thread, and she said that this poncho that she made, this Mingia poncho, is perfect stoplight knitting.
Okay, that sounds scary.
Yes, the 2U's do not recommend knitting at stoplights.
Yes. No knitting in rush hour driving.
No.
We don't condone that behavior.
But according to Terry, if you wanted perfect stoplight knitting, this poncho would be it. So yeah, congratulations, Terry, and thanks to everyone who participated. It was really fun, and I am on the lookout for a new poncho to make.
I love my poncho, and before we decided to have this contest, I don't think I would have made a poncho.
Marsha was very skeptical.
I was like, I don't know if I'll wear a poncho. I love my poncho, so I would make another one in a heartbeat. Yeah. I'm very excited about ponchos. So,
all right.
Okay. But anyway, Kelly, back to you. So you have other finished projects?
I do. I finished my cardigan, the Funky Grandpa, that I've been working on for over a year. I started it last year in January. I said the Funky Grandpa. The designer is Maison Rilillie. It's made out of hand spun. It's a woolen spun 2-ply yarn, and the fleece I've talked about this before, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but the fleece was from a sheep named Charlotte, whose fleece I actually bought twice, 2 different times, not on purpose. I just happened to find out that it was the same sheep's fleece. It actually looked different slightly different in the 2 years, but it's gray. And if I'm remembering correctly, it was not a super fine fleece. It wasn't a merino or the finest class of fleece in the auction. It was either a half blood or 3/8 blood, which is a couple of clicks down from the fine fleeces. But it really feels
very
nice.
Soft.
It doesn't.
Nice, yeah.
It feels kind of silky, which I was surprised about. The yarn didn't feel silky, but once it was knit, it feels a little bit silky, and it's pretty soft. And I like this sweater. This is going to be, I think, well, I don't know. I've said this before about things, but I think this is going to be my new favorite sweater. I made it with the size larger for the shoulders, and then I debated about putting in waist shaping, and I decided not to because the pattern is supposed to be kind of square. But I did after the arms, the arms and shoulders, I did go back to the regular size. I did a couple of decreases to get it back to the size that I was making. I really like it. Yeah. It has the stripes in the overdyed color. And one of the details that I really like, that I think I will do again in a sweater, is when you pick up stitches for the button band, the first row of the button band is one of the contrast colors. It's just one row, so you just get a little bit of color, and
it's a nice sort of delineation or a...
Yeah. It kind of, the dent of where you pick up the stitches is the darker color, and so I think that's part of why I like it, because you don't really see the picked up stitches. Yeah. Sometimes when I pick up stitches, sometimes that first row of the picked up stitches is not so nice. And it's because it's dark, it just gives a nice little delineation, like you said, and you don't really see the stitches.
And then the I-cord too.
Oh, that's right. And then the I-cord bind off is nice.
Yeah, I like that detail.
I like that detail. And then the other thing that was new to me on this, the I-cord was new, but the other thing that was new to me on this sweater that I think I like, and I think I'll do again, are the Afterthought buttonholes. And mine were only 3 stitches, three stitch buttonholes. You just like with the Afterthought heel, you just pick up stitches in 2 rows with a row in between with your needles, and then you snip the middle stitch between your 2 needles, and you unravel it back to the edges, so you have this little tiny bit of yarn, and then you just kind of chain the stitches over each other on either side, and then sew them down with the remaining thread.
That's a great idea.
I think so, because that way I won't get... if I have my buttons already and I know what I'm going to do, then I can plan the buttonholes when I do the button band. But if I don't have to be stalled on the button band, other than just the stalling that happens when you have to pick up stitches, and you want to avoid it, so you put the project away. But you don't also get the stalling of, well, I don't know what buttons I'm going to use, and so I need to know what size buttons before I do the buttonholes.
Yeah.
And so you can, and also you can... Sometimes when you put on the button band, before you put on the button band, when you try it on, you're not sure where those buttons have to be. If you don't want gaps, you want to make sure your buttons are in the right place. So anyway, I think Afterthought buttonholes are a really good idea. They're fiddly, and you have to have good dexterity to get a small bit of thread into a needle and work with it. But I really liked that technique, so I will probably use that again at some point. With the sweater finished, I have now picked back up my NoCKR shawl, and I'm getting close. I think I have maybe 8, they're long rows, but I think I have maybe 8 to 10 rows, and I'll be finished with my NoCKR shawl. And then I will have everything off of needles. Well, I started a sock for stitches. So I guess I will still have the sock that I started on the 9-inch circulars that I'm experimenting with, but yeah, I think I'll have everything off needles. I will have something crochet project unfinished, and I have to still sew up the octopus, but I won't have anything actually on needles.
Just quickly jumping in here to add that I actually did finish the NoCKRs shawl. I ended up with 2 smaller than walnut-sized balls of yarn, so I succeeded in using all of my Duran Dye Works yarn. It hasn't been blocked, but the ends have been woven in, and now I'm at that very strange and scary place where I have nothing but those socks on the needles.
That's a little scary.
Oh my gosh. No, actually it's exciting because the possibilities are endless. What you can cast on 5 projects.
Yeah, but my starting process is slow. That when I have to think about what I'm going to start, that slows me down. So it's a little scary. Like, oh my gosh, I could go a month with nothing because I can't figure out what to do next.
And Kelly, remind me of your pattern for the NoCKRs. The NoCKRs yarn is Duran Dye Works.
Yeah, it's Duran Dye Works yarn in the NoCKRs colorway. I think it's called Forest Floor and Quietude, okay. And then the pattern that I'm using is New Beginnings by Boo Knits, and I'm kind of just using it for the lace repeat pattern because it's designed for a worsted weight, and I'm using a fingering weight, and I also have 2 skeins of yarn, so I'm making it bigger than the pattern and using more yarn than the pattern calls for. So, but it's the same design. It's kind of a waving lace pattern. Yeah, mixture of lace and garter stitch. So it's the second one I've made. This one's a little different, like I said, because I'm using 2 colors and wanting to use up more yarn. But it's a nice shawl. I like the pattern a lot. Yeah. I get a lot of use out of my other one, so I think I'll get a lot of use out of this too. Okay. How about you?
So finished projects. I finished at your house. I finished my NoCKRs yarn. The shawl I made is Good Vibes by, and I always apologize every episode when I talk about this shawl because I never know how to pronounce the designer's name. Nadia Cretin Lechen.
That sounds good.
I apologize. Anyway, so I finished that, and that's also similar to Kelly's, where I'm using the 2 colors of the Quietude and the Forest Floor. So I believe Quietude is the kind of gray blue, more solid color, and then Forest Floor is the multicolored one. So the multicolored one, all of the stitches are garter stitch, and there's sort of a block of garter stitch at the beginning, and then on an angle what would you call that? Their short rows create an angle, so then all the lace then starts forming an angle, and in between, so the lace bands are the gray blue, and then in between the lace bands are the garter stitch of the multicolored. So anyway, but I finished that. I just have the ends to weave in, and then when I get home I'll block that, and so that's the only finished project I have since the last episode. But I have picked up the striped study shawl that I started a year ago, I think, and that's a Vera Valimaki pattern, and the yarn is the custom blend yarn of a merino alpaca. It's 2 balls of yarn that were wound together onto a cone. I got that at Yarnia a couple of years ago, I think. Now,
I think you've been working on this project for a while.
And but I ran out of yarn, and so they were kind enough to send me more yarn. So now that I've got that, and because I finished the poncho and I finished the other shawl, I started working on it again. And I believe there's 12. I'm using 2 colors, a gray and a sort of a pumpkin color. And I believe there's 12 bands of the pumpkin color, and I'm almost done with the last band. And then I'll start the border of the gray. So hopefully I'll finish that before the next episode.
Yeah, that's probably, because you have some time. You'll have some time while you're having your second adventure of the week.
Yes, I'll have time during my second adventure of the week, and then
a plane ride,
and then I admit I do spend a lot of time just sitting in bed with a cup of tea and watching the news and knitting. Okay, but now that might be too much information. Okay, so I think that's it for projects. I did make pretty good progress on those Pismo Beach socks, though.
Oh, good.
I didn't work on them. I brought them with me. I didn't work on them at all. But I mean, since the last episode, I finished 1 sock, and I've got maybe I'm almost ready, I believe, to start the heel flap on the second one. So I made pretty good progress on that. So that's it for projects.
Cool.
So now
stitches. So we didn't take any classes. We're just here to talk to people, see people, be among the tribe, and then see the marketplace. People. Yes, and see the marketplace and just experience the whole vibe of, I don't know, thousands of people. How many people do you think are here?
I have no idea. A lot.
A lot.
I mean, when Saturday morning, the marketplace opens at 10, and we got there a little before 10, and we walked all the way past the line. And the line, I mean...
went all the way back from the convention center to the hotel.
The lobby of the hotel, yeah. And so we walked all the way to the head of the line because we wanted to see everybody going in, and Kelly did a little recording, so maybe we can put that in.
Okay, everyone's going in. It's a long line of people. I thought there would be more cheering, but they were too busy going. Woo-hoo! Woo-hoo! It's stitches!
And so, yeah, tons of people there.
Yeah, so the first thing, I'll just talk about what I got. What was really exciting is I've heard so much about these mythical loop bumps.
And that's not what they're really called, mythical loop bumps, are they?
They're called loop bumps.
Okay,
they are called loop bumps.
We call them mythical.
Well, they were mythical to me because I had only heard about them on podcasts. I'd only heard people talking about them from, I think, maybe Rhinebeck and other, places in the East. So we're walking along, and I had not paid attention to seeing who was vending. I really hadn't done that. But it's Steph Gorin of Loop Fiber Studio, and she has all of these center pull balls of roving. And so if you haven't seen one before, they really just look a lot like the center pull balls of gradient yarn, but it's roving. And so you can just spin the center pull ball, and your yarn will change color as you go along. And so that's
and she was saying if you
cool.
want to keep it, if you want to ply it, but you want to keep that pattern, then you would do a Navajo ply.
Right. And I don't know what I was looking at yesterday. Maybe it was somebody talking about you could buy two of them that are the same or close to the same, and then you could ply, spin both of them and then ply them together. But I think I'll probably do the Navajo 3-ply to mine. It's about 5 ounces of roving, so it's a good amount of roving, and so you'll have really long color repeats.
Well, you could probably knit it as a single too.
I could, yeah. I actually could if I spin it. It's a little fine. The roving is, in order to be able to be wound that way, I think it's more of a pin drafted roving, not a lot of fiber. So
and I think
it'd be a thin singles, but I think it would work.
I think when we were talking to Steph, didn't she say that sometimes people they spin another yarn in a complementary color and then ply it with that to keep that pattern. So that's another thought.
Or thinking about that, I could use some of my coned yarn.
Oh yeah,
I have some thin coned yarn, different kinds. I have one that looks kind of like silk. That might be cool too. So mine's a blue, and I don't have mine with me. It's in the car, but mine's a blue and green, kind of turquoisey blue and green.
And I'm opening mine up here because mine is kind of black. Oh, mine is black, red, and kind of a denim blue, a light blue.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yours has a lot more dark than mine does. Mine has a lot of the light colors.
Yeah. It was kind of hard to choose. There's so many beautiful colors and no two alike.
Yeah. So I'm excited to finally see them. I had to buy one. But this is the first time I've ever seen one. I've heard so much about them. So there are people who have collections. I mean, I can see they'd be very appealing if you were going to a show and you see one, and then you go the next year and you haven't spun the one you had, but there's another one that. So there are people who have quite a few of them.
Yeah.
But we finally saw them. So
what else did you get?
Well, Marsha.
Well, actually, since we bought the same thing, the loop bumps. We also bought the same thing, same colorway of the Sincere Sheep and
the Rambouillet. It's her Eureka worsted. It's a new yarn that she has. It's called Eureka worsted, and it's from Surprise Valley, California. And actually, I'm really excited about this yarn. In fact, I specifically went to buy some of this, and there's very little left because Brooke had been at Madrona last weekend, and that was the sort of debut of this yarn. But I had heard about it, I had seen about it in her newsletter. So we had talked in a recent episode about the Fiber Shed project and climate beneficial wool and the fiber that is being used for the cloth that I bought. And the fiber that's being used for the cloth that I bought is from Bear Ranch. It's Lonnie Estelle Bear Ranch in Surprise Valley, California. Well, come to find out, this Eureka worsted is also from Lonnie Estelle's Bear Ranch. So this is a ranch that is climate beneficial. It has a composting operation, and they're working towards having a totally closed loop composting so that it's their hay and manure and all of that from the ranch. Plus, when they clear off juniper from the land to use it for pasture, or when they do any kind of creek restoration or those kinds of things that they're doing, they use that for the compost. They also do windbreaks and rotational grazing, and they're increasing their no-till farming practice. And I think they actually have been, the plan was for it to happen in 2016, and I think it did, where they actually are certified carbon beneficial or certified climate beneficial by the Carbon Institute that I talked about at one of the previous.
Okay.
So anyway, you can see why I'm so excited about this yarn. Not only is it Sincere Sheep, which is,
we like the company because what it stands for,
but it's the same carbon neutral, carbon farming.
Yeah, and it feels really nice.
Yeah,
and it's a nice color. Did we say what the color is?
No, I don't think we did.
What would you call that? Kind of a cross between pumpkin and coral.
I think it's more coral than pumpkin. I think it was Dagmar or Marianne who said they thought it might have been dyed with madder.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's what this was dyed with. She does do natural dyeing, so it might have been madder. And I don't know, cochineal makes a pink, so it might have some of that in it to make it more pink. I'm actually not sure what it was dyed with, but dark coral.
Or it sort of reminds
orange.
To me, it sort of reminds me of Campbell's tomato soup.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not truly orange, and it's not really pink.
And it's not red.
It's kind of a combination.
It's not pumpkin.
No.
Yeah.
It's kind of a combination.
Yeah.
So it's very nice.
You can imagine with
Or go to the show notes and you'll see a picture.
Yeah. Anyway.
So that was very exciting to be able to get some of that.
So I think that's the only thing that we bought, the only two things we bought the same, right? So what else did you buy?
So Marsha did not stop me.
I was not a good friend.
So I have a very bad, addiction is not quite the right word, but attraction.
Yeah, addiction sounds too negative. It's attraction.
I have a very strong attraction to bags of yarn. And there's a vendor who is at Stitches every year, and I have succumbed several years to buying bags of yarn, and they have this big dog X pen kind of thing, wire rack. I call it the yarn playpen, and it has just bags and bags and bags of yarn in it. And so you just sort through all these, and there's all these people standing around grabbing bags and digging through the bags. And so that's what I did. I went digging through the bags, and I found linen. So it's called Linen Concerto, and it's a total of 10 balls for 1,000 yards. So I have 1,000 yards of this. It's 48% rayon, 42% linen, and 10% cotton. And I was looking on Ravelry this morning. The yarn has two colors. It's a kind of a beige natural color, and then it goes into a turquoise. So from the beige to kind of a pale blue to kind of the darker turquoise, and then back. And I think it's going to make stripes. I was looking at some of the other projects that were on Ravelry this morning. I didn't get a chance to look through too many of them, but I think it's going to make stripes. I think it's a long variegation. So anyway, I'm gonna make a summer.
And they had other colorways, but that was I think the most attractive.
The first one I found was browns, very neutral browns. And then the second one I found was also kind of brown, but more toward orange. And then I kept digging, and I found this blue.
Yes, you have to dive to the bottom of the yarn pit, or what, pen. What did you call it?
The yarn playpen.
Playpen, yes. You have to go to the bottom of the yarn playpen.
I mean, it's probably, what would you say, stacked, like, higher than knee deep.
It's like 3 feet.
Yeah.
Probably 3 feet.
3 feet of bags of yarn. Now, it'll be considerably smaller today. I might be able to uncover something else.
Because they're working their way to the bottom now.
Yeah, so, some of it is not that attractive of yarn, but some of it's nice. This in particular I really liked. And there was some Plymouth wool that if you wanted to just make a nice, like, serviceable sweater, you could get a whole bag of it. So it's a very appealing booth, and I have done this several times.
Anyway.
But very fun. So that's what I bought in terms of yarn and fiber.
And then you bought the patterns. So we went to
Woolly Walkers.
You could make a coaster with and it's a
punch needle rug hooking.
Right. And so you could sit there and make a little coaster, and so we did that. And then they had patterns for sale. So Kelly bought six
of them. Yeah. So I went there last year. Yes, I think it was last year. A previous stitches, and made the coaster and bought the punch needle and bought the fabric. And then at Lambtown, I bought another punch needle, and I still haven't made anything with them. And I thought, I can make a pattern. If I want to make a rug or a chair cover or whatever, I can make my own pattern. But I haven't. And I have a rug hooking book, and I looked through it, and they had some patterns, but they seem a lot more involved, this rug hooking book. It's, I got it off a D-stash table or something. And so I just haven't gotten started. And I thought, you know what? I think what it'll take to get me started is to actually buy this pattern that I like so much. So I bought, it's a botanicals, a kind of stylized floral and leaf patterns. And so you get 6 of them for $30. And they're about a foot square.
Yeah, I would say.
So I got my 6 patterns, and I'm gonna make the a rug out of them.
And they had a sample of the patterns, or a sample rug hanging on the wall, and then they had a border in between the. Didn't they have a border in between the 6 panels?
Yeah, and I think what I'd like to do is do it all. I think that might have been the panels sewn together.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not positive, but I think I'd like to do it all in one piece. If the fabric comes in that size, I'd like to do it all in one piece, so it's one solid.
Yeah.
But you'd still want a border in between.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So that was my exciting thing, is that now I'm really ready to do this punch needle rug hooking. So I'm hoping it won't take me until next year.
Well, you won't have anything on the needles.
I won't. That's true.
You can put something on the punch needle.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and I think it was good to do this again, because I had done it before, but just the little tips you don't remember unless you do it. So now, having done it, I should really get started again, because it's fresh in my mind how it works.
Yeah. I would say I was really surprised at how quickly it goes. You could probably make a rug and
you could make at least one of the squares in an evening, I think, or you need good light if you were doing it in the evening.
But yeah, you could do it in a day for sure. Yeah, it was amazingly fast. And a good way to use up all that yarn.
Well, and I have a ton of rug yarn.
Yeah,
I have a ton of rug yarn. So that's going to be.
I have, in fact, Kelly, I was just sitting here thinking when you were talking about the rug yarn, I have yarn that I got at the Goodwill that I should send to you, or when I come back down, maybe I'll bring it, because I'll never make anything out. It's nothing you would ever want for a sweater. It'd have to be a rug, and so I'll bring it down to you, and then you can use it. Because there's some kind of pumpkin-y orange colors and browns and stuff, which might kind of work for the botanicals. So
yeah, okay,
anyway.
cool. I don't really need more, but cool.
I know you can. Well, I don't need it either, so maybe it should just go back to the Goodwill. Anyway,
so I bought those patterns, and then the other thing I got that I'm very excited about is I have been looking for a lace knitting needle that has the hole in it for your lifeline. So your lifeline just automatically goes in while you're knitting, and I could only find it in a set. The Chaogu needles, I had only seen them as a set, and I don't want a whole set of needles. So I was talking with someone at the Lacey Knitting Guild, and she sent me to Mimi's Needle Basket. That was the booth, and they had the tips and the cables separately that you could purchase. So I bought a set of tips and two different styles of cable, the spin cable and the twist cable. Just one's more stiff than the other, so I can test them out. And they have, in the cable, they have a little hole, and that's where you put the yarn or the thread, whatever you're using for your lifeline when you're knitting a lace pattern. So I'm contemplating another knee bling, or maybe some other fancy lace pattern. So out of very thin yarn. So I'm excited to have those, because lifelines are a pain to put in, but they're even worse pain not to have, because, well.
Yes, after that knee bling, right? Yes.
Yeah. So you have to do them. Yeah. If you're going to, I have to do, if I'm going to do a lace pattern like that, I have to have lifelines, and this will make it a lot easier. So, yeah. So that's what I have so far.
Okay. Well, I was busy. Well, I have to tell you that we arrived and met Kelly's mom and her husband Dennis, and sort of wandered around with them. And I think the first 20 minutes I was there, I bought 2 things. I hadn't even got my bearings, and I bought 2 things. So the first thing I bought was a front range bag, project bag, and it's cute. It's black and white, red. It has dog bones and little dogs. I was actually looking for poodles. But I didn't find anything. I didn't find anything with poodles.
No,
poodles are not in right now, I guess. But anyway, I bought the bag. I love those bags, so I bought that. Then we walked a little bit further, and I saw there's this other booth, and it's called Just Shaw Pins. Their website is just shawlpins.com, and they had been at the Black Sheep Gathering 2 years ago, and I bought a shawl pin there that's made out of abalone, and then it has a like a stick that goes through it, and I love that pin, and I wore it a lot, and I had taken my shawl off and put the shawl pin in my purse, and I lost it. It fell out of my purse, so I haven't had it. So I was really excited to see them. So I bought another abalone shawl pin, and then they had some other ones there too, so I ended up buying 2. So that was in like the first 20 minutes. And then I what else did I buy? Oh, I love the Kelly shawl and the Neighborhood Fiber Company. So I bought 3 skeins of the Studio Worsted. And Kelly, I think this is one of the colors that's in your shawl. It's called Druid Hill. It's
the dark.
And we were having a discussion about, well, what color is this? Is it gray? Is it brown? Is it black? And you said fig.
Yeah.
It's an interesting color. It's it keeps changing. So
it's a very warm gray.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do get that sort of, I don't know, to me, figgy, purpley brown color.
And I have to say, I did know that I knew this is the one thing I wanted to buy at Stitches.
That was your plan, yeah.
And then I was just walking around, and I saw a skein of yarn, and this is Fresh from the Cauldron, and I think I bought it. I like the colors, but I also bought it because I like the name, and the name was I Was Drunk. It was Comic-Con. So I have no idea what was going on. But how would you describe this? It has pink,
green, and black.
Yeah, and it's sort of speckled.
It's
and some gray in there.
It's soft. The colors are soft, all of them.
All soft and muted. Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of speckly and smudged.
Yeah, and this is it's fingering weight. It's sock yarn. It's 75% merino, 25% nylon. So, and I think the reason I bought it just because, I like the color and I like the name, and we've been laughing is in that first 20 minutes when we arrived at the show, I found a skein of yarn that I really liked. It was also like this, kind of painted and speckled, and it was greens and
kind of a burgundy pink or magenta, but not real dark, not real
cranberries, like cranberries
cranberry.
or something. And I can't find it. And Kelly, before we went, when we were at her house, she said, if you see something, just buy it because you may not find it again. Well, she was right. I can't find that yarn. So we're going to go back today and walk through and just see if I can find that yarn. You know what? If I can't find it, I'm not meant to have it.
Right.
And then the other thing I bought was I had bought in Portland a ball of, and I don't know how you pronounce this, Kauni, Kauni wool.
Right.
And it's not a gradient, it's
like a really long striping.
Yeah, long striping. And it's a Norwegian, I believe. And it's a very woolly wool. Mm-hmm. And I've seen sweaters where you combine it with a solid to do stripes, but I didn't know what yarn to combine it with. And there is a booth there, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the booth.
Was it Two Guys?
Oh yes, it was the Two Guys.
Actually, it's not Two Guys, it's the Yarn Guys who had that yarn.
And I guess one of the guys helped me because the young man helped me, and he said, because it is such a woolly wool, you can combine it with another wool that's a little bit softer, and it sort of tempers the woolly wool. So I ended up buying 4 skeins of a gray, like a dark charcoal gray. I'm into gray, I guess, on this trip, but kind of a dark charcoal gray to go with the ball that I have at home, which is kind of there's like yellow, blue, not really yellow, sort of like citron.
Yeah, kind of a greeny yellow,
citron,
yeah.
A little bit of blue and a darker green. So I bought, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say a shout out to Ravelry because he's like, well, what color do you have? Well, those balls of yarn that I had, the County or whatever, they don't have names.
Right.
They have letters. And I said, I think it's EK. He said, or it could be EV, or like, I don't know. So I looked, and I had my phone. I was able to look up on Ravelry, and it was in my stash.
Yeah.
And I could find that, so it was EK. So thank you, Ravelry, for having a way to archive your stash, because it was really helpful.
Well, and because those yarns are such long striping patterns, you can't tell by what the outside of the ball looks like what the yarn color is, because there are colors inside that you don't see. And so yeah, an EK and an EV looked exactly the same, and the 2 EKs didn't look the same at all, just because it was wound from a different part of the yarn ball.
And I have to tell you, when I bought that skein, I didn't realize there was any blue in it. When I bought it in Portland, and now it's, I don't know how many years ago I bought it, I didn't realize there was kind of a lighter blue in there. I didn't know that. But then
another he showed you.
Well, when I got home, I was sort of digging, down through the center, and I could see there was another color in there. And that's, so the exact same colorway wound a different way as more blue.
Yeah, and so you
wound another way as more green. So, yeah. So anyway, I got
thank God for Ravelry and phones.
yes. I think that's it.
Yeah.
And then we are thinking today we're going to go back to the marketplace, because yesterday we heard from another knitter that there is a booth that is selling yarn that 100% of the proceeds go to Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. So we think we're going to go back and check that out. See what, So.
And then I want to. There are a couple of vendors that I thought were going to be here, and I looked in the vendor directory and didn't see them. And then I thought, oh, maybe I was mistaken. And then I found out last night that they really are here. They must be sharing a booth with someone else. So I'm gonna dig into the Ravelry book, or the Stitches West booklet, and see if I can figure out where exactly they might be.
Yeah.
And see if we can find them. So that will be today's adventure.
Yeah. And then I think we want to talk a little bit too about just kind of what we took away from the show in terms of new products.
Yes.
And well, I don't know about new products, but I say what I noticed was gradients are still popular. Either the ball of a gradient or gradient kits.
Yeah.
Still really, really popular. And lots of, I think, sort of hot, bright colors are still very popular. Fluorescence and jewel tones. Lots and lots of those colors.
A lot of mini skeins. Lots of kits of small skeins that you put together for a project, which when I see those, I always just think of the ends you have to weave in. Which actually is not that bad. I don't really even mind weaving in ends, but that's what I noticed. But it's so inspirational to see what everybody's wearing, what other people are doing with their yarn, just to be around that much yarn. Or some of the booths that had patterns, and then they had this like Blue Bee Studio, Elizabeth Doherty's booth, where she had a variety of different sweaters all knit up, samples that you could take a look at. So that was fun. My favorite thing really is just being around so many other knitters. And then I've been coming to Stitches for a long time, but now that we have the podcast, being able to put faces to names on Ravelry, and the podcaster, the meetup for podcast listeners, and that the Two Knit Lid Chicks and the Yarniacs put together. It was smaller this year than it has been in the last couple of years, I think. I mean, it felt smaller to me. Maybe not. Maybe just where I was sitting. But that's always fun. We didn't meet a lot of people that we hadn't. I mean, we met up with a lot of people that we already know, that we've already met. There were a couple of new people that we met that we hadn't met before, that are listeners. And one of them is Marsha from the Destined to Knit podcast. And she lives in California, but has lived in Washington. And so you had a long conversation with her. So that's kind of nice. I haven't listened to her podcast, so I'm going to have to give it a try.
Yeah, no, I have. It's on my list. I'm going to give it a listen.
And it's audio.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. And then also we got to meet Karen, who is K-Lou on Ravelry. Barb met her first and was nice enough to come over and introduce her to us. And she's from the Central Valley in California, so it was really fun to meet Karen, and another person that we can now think about instead of just like staring at the computer when we talk. So it was fun. I think that's the biggest thing that I always enjoy, is just and just like anywhere you go, you can just sit down with your knitting, and you can look over and you can see other people with their knitting. Like we went down this morning to the lobby, and the whole lobby
is full of knitters.
Yeah. It's just fun.
And if you've never been to Stitches and you don't have anybody to go with, no problem.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Just go on your own. You'll find somebody, and people are so friendly. And then it was fun last night too, because one person in the group said, "Well, what if I got in the dining room there was a big room," and so she just made a reservation, and we went in there and had dinner, and that was really nice last night. Just to and we got laughing really hard too about all kinds of things. Now I can't none of which can be repeated in the podcast.
Right.
But it was really fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, lots of fun. So really inspirational. As you said, it was really fun to see what everybody was wearing, and
and just to see people that we see only a few times a year at retreats and etc. So it was very fun.
So do we have anything else to say?
I don't think so. I think that's my last page.
Let me look. Oh, it's my last page too.
Well, we need to check out. We need to check out in about 20 minutes. So we should probably say goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's
doing our part for World Fleece.